Who are the world's most interesting people? And what fascinating, groundbreaking, incredible things can they teach us? In this new series, I leave our Science of People lab to interview my favorite authors, experts, and celebrities for them to share their best people hacks, social skills, and stories. And let me tell you, they have some juicy tips. This is a new series I'm calling The World's Most Interesting People. Hello, YouTube friends. In today's installment of World's Most Interesting People, I have Sarah Moyle on the show. She is a creative catalyst, love that title, and visual storyteller. As a self-taught graphic recorder, Lego serious play facilitator, yep, that's using Legos for creative sparks, Sarah loves to encourage creative and visual thinking in others. Out of over 1,000 employees, Sarah is the only person at a Fortune 500 company, Intel, doing creative facilitation. Sarah also creates whiteboard animation videos on topics ranging from technology to policy. We're going to dive into all of it. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I was really excited about this interview because on this show, we talk a lot about people skills, we talk about relationships, about business. And I know a lot of people watching are very successful, high achieving professionals, and they're into the professional skills. And Sarah, I think that you embody this perfect balance of being professional. You're working at Intel, a Fortune 500 company, earning income, but also honoring your creative spirit. Is that something you set out to do? Did that happen on accident?
It was kind of a long road, but I got there. I'm glad I got there when I did. I've always loved to create and paint and draw, but I had this conception that an artist, if you were to study art, the chances that you would be successful and make a living from it were quite small.
Right.
So I didn't end up pursuing it in any kind of professional manner. I went to school actually as a pre-veterinary student.
Oh.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. And then after working in a clinic for 3 years, decided that was out. Ended up in human resources at Intel. And
nothing was creative about it. It was just HR at Intel. That was it.
Yeah, it was HR, pretty standard. I was an intro level employee, and I just was feeling really starved for creativity. And so I started looking for ways that I could bring some of my creativity to work with me. Because we spend so much time in our jobs. If you don't love what you're doing, what are you doing? Such a big portion of our lives.
I love that. If you don't love what you're doing, what are you doing?
Yeah. And I came across this world of visual thinking, sketchnoting, graphic recording. And I immediately knew that it was something that would get me excited to get out of bed in the morning and go to work and do. And I knew that because I had always drawn and created on the side, it was something that I could quickly pick up. And so I put together a little pitch to explain the value of why something like this could be powerful and beneficial to Intel.
Like slides or like a presentation?
Yeah, there were some slides, but mostly it was just, I started out just with my manager.
Okay.
Saying, I really think this is something we should try. And he said, that's really cool, but I'm leaving. So kind of good luck. Good luck with the next manager. It took them about 4 months to hire a new manager for our team.
So you're just waiting. You're waiting and waiting.
Yeah, I had a lot of spare time. We had a few things that we had to keep doing, but I had a lot of free time because we didn't have any real direction.
Yeah.
And so I found friends in high places that would let me use them as test subjects.
Yeah.
And I just started doing it. So by the time we had a new manager in place, I had all these examples and case studies of where
Give me like an example of something that, like a fake example of something you might do.
Yeah. So a whiteboard animation video.
Okay.
To explain something. It could be technology. It could be a process.
Like I noticed on your website, you had a supply chain management whiteboard video explaining that.
Yeah.
Got it.
So kind of in plain English type videos that are very visual and break things down for people. So I did a couple of those. I went to a couple of leadership summits, and I did what's called graphic recording, which is a visual summary. You take notes where you draw and write of the content that's being presented.
Okay.
And that's often used both as a way of engaging the audience during the session, because they're watching it unfold, as well as an additional pass down tool.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my really big goal, I hope that everyone watching can hear this journey, because I think that I have one big goal for my interview with Sarah, and I shared this with Sarah before we started, which is that I hope that this video can spark some kind of creativity in you. Even if you think you have the most technical, boring, black and white job, one, is there a way that you can bring creativity into your work? Sarah just shared her story of just starting with an idea, creating a little pitch, and just starting with one or two people.
Yeah.
If you can't bring it into your work, is there a way you can do creativity at least on the side, right? Is there some kind of project you can start on nights, on weekends to bring that creativity into your life? Because creativity can help spark so many other areas of your life. And that was actually my next question for you, Sarah, was once you started really honoring this creative part of yourself, did it spark other things in your life? Did it change other things that you were doing, or even your professional success?
Yeah. So one thing that I really learned is that even if a job or a role or a process is supposedly laid out, set in stone, pre-described, there is always room for adjustment and change.
Okay, wait, we got to pause here for a second. So what you just said is every rule, every system that seems laid in stone, there's some flexibility there. This is a life lesson that is so important. Can you give an example of when you first discovered this idea? A rule that was breakable, perhaps, or bendable. I shouldn't say breakable, I should say bendable.
I would say for me personally, it was never settling for a job as it was written again. And so always making sure that there was some room, even if it's 15%, to do something that I'm really passionate about, that I know is valuable. I'm not trying to just waste the company's time, but adding to it and making sure that it uses the skills and the passion areas that I feel strongly about. So for those watching, your job description is not your only job description, right? The tasks and skills listed, there could be some flexibility there. In fact, I'm sure there is some flexibility there. The question is, how can you add it in with an area that works for you? Have you found that people at Intel have recognized you in a different way, noticed you more? You were actually nominated to be on World's Most Interesting People by one of your colleagues who said, Sarah's doing amazing things. So the answer has to be yes to that. Yes. Okay. And so it can be hard to be different because I work in an engineering technical company. I am not an engineer, nor am I that technically savvy. Yeah. You know, I make my husband set up the TV or reconfigure the internet or whatever. Me too. I'm lucky I can work a remote. Yeah. Yeah. So at times it can feel alienating to be in that environment as an artist. Right. But I do believe that because I stuck to those traits that I know can provide value, and I pushed back when I needed to, I have stood out from the crowd. I've been brought into very high-level meetings, and I've gotten to work with groups all across the company and learn about what's going on. So I think because of this role that I've taken upon myself to fulfill, I've had a very unique horizontal view of the company that many do not get to experience. So the takeaway here, I think, is that creativity can actually be a career booster, right? Like adding in something to your job makes you more valuable. Your goal is to bring value, right? Sarah said, I'm doing something that I think is valuable for the company.
So it can provide a booster for you. It can also provide a little bit of insurance, like job insurance, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not only doing your job, you're doing this kind of other thing that's serving lots of different teams across the company. What a great people. When people think of adding skills, they usually think of adding hard skills. I'm a very big believer in soft skills, creativity, communication, relationships. I think that's where you actually begin to create job security and job opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I get to meet, like I said, people from all throughout the company. And that's, networking and having that wide outreach of people you can contact if you ever were in need of a new job is invaluable.
Amazing. So what I want to do now is I want to get into the what I hope is the meat of this video, which is going through different creative outlets that you use, explaining them and seeing if it sparks creativity for anyone who's watching. So you know where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with Legos. Tell me about Legos. How do you use Legos at work?
So about 2.5 years ago, I got certified in what's called Lego Serious Play.
I love serious play. I love.
Yeah,
okay, yes.
It's very serious.
Very.
It's a methodology that was designed by some Lego folks back in the 90s. And it's essentially a way of tackling business problems and challenges that's engaging, gets people to use their hands to build things.
Which we never do anymore.
Yeah, our brains love.
Yes.
It's so powerful for the way that we make connections and engage with content and information and remember it. So what people do is they build metaphors to represent different things, and then they tell stories about them.
Ooh, can you give me an example?
Yeah, I actually built one just for fun.
Yay! Okay, tell me.
So people, I would pose a question like, what traits do you think make a really good leader? And so the thing about Lego Serious Play is that everybody builds to the same prompt. They all build at the same time. So it's really good for leveling the playing field and making sure that everyone's voice is heard. So everyone would go off and build a model, and then they would tell a story about it. So I'm just making this up on the spot, but I might say something like, a good leader sets a really clear vision for where the team wants to go. They think about how to grow their employees, the little plant, and they provide clarity for their teams.
Yeah. Love it.
So it's very metaphorical, and whatever someone says something represents, that's what it represents. But what I love about it is that it's really approachable. People can pick it up really fast, and it can be applied to all different kinds of challenges. I've done everything from kind of generic team building sessions to technical things like a software retrospective or a process improvement. Yeah.
So what's really cool about it also is it taps into a very powerful emotion, which is hard to get in the professional world, nostalgia.
Yeah.
So many people have experienced Legos at some point in their life, and usually it's when they were younger. And when you approach something from a childlike perspective or your younger perspective, you tend to be more open-minded, more imaginative, more kind, more creative. And that is also, it's a very hard thing to bring into the workplace. So what a cool way to tap into that kind of back door.
Yeah. And what has amazed me is the level of detail that people put into their metaphor. You get very rich responses from people, and it's like team building is built in. So even if that's not your primary objective, they're sharing personal stories, they're connecting, and it's really, really powerful.
Okay, so takeaway here for everyone watching is just Legos. You don't need to go be a certified Lego serious play facilitator. You can if you want to, but maybe just doing something with your hands, right? Like, is there something you can build? It doesn't have to be Legos. It could be any kind of buildables. I recommend going into your local toy store and asking them, what can I build with? See if there's some kind of buildable. I've seen wax melters, I've seen Legos, I've seen Lincoln Logs. I mean, there's so many different kinds of things. Is there something you can build with, either just as a side project for yourself or as a way to bond with your team or do an icebreaker or start with your kids if you have to, but don't be afraid to bring it to the professional setting because I think that people are much more willing to play than you think.
Yes.
All right, my next one is, you actually mentioned it earlier, which is graphic recording and facilitation. So you mentioned what it is. Is there any way that someone who's interested in doing this could start? Like, what's a first step if someone wanted to see if they were good at it, if they're very visual?
Yeah. So there are classes you can take.
Okay.
The first thing that I did was to actually read a book, which I highly recommend. It's called the Sketchnote Handbook by Mike Rohde.
Okay, we'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's really good. What I love about his book is that he collected work from a number of different visual or sketchnoters. And so you can see there's quite a variety in different styles. And it does take a while to develop and identify with your own style. And so
kind of finding what your theme is.
Yeah.
What I would say is a fun way that you could do this is, one, do you have a favorite TV show that you could practice with? Or two, YouTube's like videos. So if anyone wants to, a challenge I will issue to my YouTube followers is, you want to do some graphic recording to some of our videos, I will post my favorites on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go back,
podcast.
Yes, if you want to go back to our videos and try to add some graphic recording to them, I'm all for it. I will happily post some of those on there. So if you want to challenge yourself, you can start with our YouTube videos and we can see what we can do. Yeah. The next one's really fun, chalkboard art. So I noticed on your website you had a lot of beautiful chalkboard art, and this is an area that people could really dabble in if they wanted to as a side hustle, right?
Yeah. It's something I don't do as much anymore, but for a while, I was doing a lot of signs for weddings and things like that, or even just for my own hosting at home if I was having a party.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, I would go all out. And it's something that doesn't take a lot of time or money to do. And it's a nice creative outlet.
I really like this one because it's also with your hands, right? It's also with your hands. And it's also very low barrier to entry. Again, how would people get started? Is there a book? Is there a video that you like?
I would say just surf Pinterest. There are so many ideas on Pinterest and different fonts. Is one way to say it.
And chalkboard art is one of those things where you could copy to learn. So not all art is like this. So when we talk about creativity, so actually back in the day, I'm actually a classically trained painter. I did many, many years of painting on the side. So there's two different kinds of ways you can learn. One is just copying, right? You look at a painting and you're like, green there, green here, blue here, just copying. And over time, you copy enough and you begin to learn the styles. So that with chalkboard art, I think that's a really easy way to do it. Is you could look on Pinterest and see, okay, they did a rainbow here, they did a little cloud here, and just start copying. Copying is a great way to learn.
Yeah, and for both the chalkboard art and if you're interested in doing sketchnoting or graphic recording, find a quote that you really like and figure out a way to visualize it. Again, it's something that's short and quick, and you can practice your handwriting because that's one thing we don't do very often anymore.
Mine's so bad.
So much time typing, or worse yet, on our phone, right? That our handwriting is starting to look like we're all doctors.
Oh, mine's worse than a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can read that. It's horrible.
Yeah, so writing legibly and then figuring out how to also do some more stylized type writing.
Okay, I love it. So action step here, this is great. Find a quote that you love, practice your handwriting of it, and then also see, is there a visual representation you can do? Love that action step. Okay, next one. I like this. Okay, wood burning. What is wood burning? Tell me about this. I was like, wood. When I saw on your website, I was like, what?
What? I know. That is something I also dabbled in just for, and I actually forgot it was still on my website.
But I want that. Like, I want like the weirder, the more unique, the better.
Yeah. It's something that I had several requests for weddings.
What is it? Tell us what it is first.
Okay. So you take a piece of wood. A lot of times it's just a wood round that's a slice of a tree, and you use a hot, I don't even know the right technical term for it, but it's like a hot pen. Okay. It's like a hot pen, and you burn a design into the wood.
So I'm going to show you something. I hired someone to do this for my wedding, which is crazy. And we hired wood burning. So these are coasters. Basically, they're rounds of wood. And they burned in symbols of my husband's and I's favorite cities. So like this is Tokyo. And then every table at our wedding was a different city that we had traveled to.
Awesome.
And now there are coasters around our house. So like, for example, I don't know if you recognize that.
Yeah.
That's Sydney. The Sydney Opera House. Yeah. So Sydney was a table. Tokyo was a table. Shanghai was a table. So we have like 12 of them. So I was so excited to see what bring on there because we hired someone to do it for our wedding too.
Awesome. Yeah.
So how would someone get started with something like this? I love this. It's such a fun, unique thing.
Yeah. Go to the craft store, pick up the right tools.
Okay.
And there's a section with the wood crafting stuff that has that. And then I would just say watch some YouTube videos and just have fun with it. You know, it's one of those things. It's like if you mess up, there's no eraser. So you just have to figure out how to turn it into something else.
Yeah.
But I will advise you that if you sand it really well, it's a lot easier to do.
Okay. Insider tip. Yeah. And here's an action step for you. Wood burning, I think, is a very unique skill and you produce unique products with it. I would recommend the goal in mind here is next Christmas, next set of birthdays. If you can give yourself whatever, 7 or 8 months to make a bunch of gifts, it gives you a purpose behind your craft. So for wood burning, think about, okay, could I make everyone in my family a set of 4 coasters? Or could I make everyone in my family a beautiful vase and I do a design on the vase? That way you have like a motivation to do it. You're making them for someone and then you give yourself a couple months before those gifts come to play. That's how I would do it.
It's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Next one is photography, painting, parenting, and the dark arts. I'm looping those together because we know about some of those.
Yeah.
Give me a little tidbits on those ones.
Sure. Photography is just one of those things that I keep getting asked to do by friends and coworkers, and just because once you're identified as someone creative, people come to you for these kinds of things.
And photography is a very specific creative skill you can learn. So that's like one of those things, easy. You want to go take a photography class. Creative Live is a wonderful resource for photography classes. Yes. I have a bunch of courses on there that are not photography related, but those are really good ones. Where did you learn how to take photographs?
Self-taught. I do not claim to be a professional by any means.
Good. Yeah, you just do it for fun.
I just do it for fun and for friends. Yeah.
And I love this. So parenting, painting, and dark arts.
Yes. So parenting, I've just started doing some funny cartoons about what it's like having young children and being a mom. And not all of them are safe for work. So be careful if you're checking out my site.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, there's motherhood is hard, and if you can't laugh at yourself, then
you're done for.
It'll be so hard.
Yeah, you're done for. It's true. I read a study once that said that the best way for you to relieve your partner's stress is to try to make a joke, but that only works one way. Men can't do that to women, but women can do that to men. So if any ladies watching, always good to bring a little humor in if we can.
Yep. The dark arts. So I have a not so secret obsession with Halloween.
Yeah.
We go all out at our house every year, and before I had kids, that meant the inside too. And so I have
not anymore.
Not anymore. It's too. I've had to tone it back a little bit, but I've done a bunch of custom art for the inside of my house. Dark finger paintings. Cool. I really like to do creepy old anatomical drawings.
There's some really cool ones on your website too.
Yeah, I used to be a science major, so I bring a little bit of biology back into my life every now and then.
So the fun part about this, what I like, is another creative outlet for you could be holidays.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So maybe you don't want to do it weekly or monthly, but you're like, yeah, like I love Easter, I love Halloween, I love Fourth of July, I love President's Day, whatever holiday you like. Is there a way that you can bring creativity in there? Is it decorations? Is it is it throwing a party? Bring decorations into work? Like, do you want to you're the party person, you're the decorations person at work? So holidays could be another way that you could bring creativity in and get really festive, especially if you are an extrovert and you like doing the party aspect.
Yes.
So what I want to do is any other creative outlets I missed, anything else you dabble in that I didn't get to see from your website?
I'm always trying new things, but I think that's pretty good.
Do you go to the craft store and just like pick out different projects like that? That's what I usually do. That's a really good way to do it, is you just walk to the craft store, walk down the aisles. Like, I feel like if you were walking down the craft aisles and you're like, oh, wood burning, you'd be like, cool. There's so many unique ways of doing art and creativity that I feel like if you just go to the craft store, you'll find something to take a weekend project for sure.
Yeah. The next thing I want to try is glass blowing. That's on my list.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. Glass blowing. Anyone has any tips on that, send them to Sarah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite project you have ever worked on? Could be a professional project, a personal project. It could be because it was challenging or because it was easy, just a favorite.
Oh, that's hard.
No easy questions here.
I know. Favorite ever. I've got to say, so this year I put on a huge haunted house at Intel.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. Like on campus.
Yeah, on campus.
That's pretty cool.
And it was super intense because it was in one of our large training rooms. And so we had to build a huge maze for people to go through.
Uh-huh.
We brought in all the props and the decorations and the sound and the smells and everything.
What?
And lighting. And we had a day and a half to set it up.
That's nothing.
It was open for 4 hours.
Oh.
And then we tore it all down that night.
Was it amazing? Was it worth everything?
And I've never been more tired, except maybe when I had a newborn. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So that also brings all kinds of new ideas, like bringing a haunted house into your work, doing something celebratory at work. How many hoops did you have to jump through to get that approved?
Well, we mostly just asked for forgiveness.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah. I had a couple layers of my management on board. And so we just went for it. And it was great. We had probably over 500 people go through with their families.
4 hours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a huge win. And like, what a thing that people will remember, right? Like about work. Yeah. I feel like when you're old, no one does anything fun anymore. And that's like, you can go home and tell your kids, I did a haunted house at work today.
Yeah.
So my last big question for you is to inspire creativity for those watching. Do you have any final words of tips, action steps for people who are like, I really want to bring more creativity into my life. I'm not sure how.
Yeah. I think creativity and playfulness is really a mindset. And finding ways that you can just be more curious about things. Take the time to just sit and reflect and create, instead of when you have unscheduled time, the tendency is, oh, I'll turn on Netflix or I'll do some other mindless thing. But give your brain that time to create, be flexible, and make those connections.
Yeah.
I would say if you have any children in your life, spend time with them as much as you can and just look at how they experience and approach the world and try to emulate that in small ways. Not necessarily being childish, but being childlike in how you approach and interact with the world.
I love it. Being not childish, but childlike. Well, with that, Sarah, how can people follow up with you? How can they reach out to you if they want you to make some chalkboard art for them? Where can they find you?
You can find me at sarahmoyle.com or on Twitter. My handle is @sdmoyle.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I will link to all those below the show notes. Everyone who's watching, I really challenge you to use the opportunity to create some creative spark in your life. Thank you so much for watching. Sarah, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Did you love this video? We love you too. Please give us some love by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. You might also like these videos to check out after this one.